Hello, and thank you for joining me today on The Political Conversationalist. My name is Ben Phipps, and we're still doing our Divisive Issues series of videos. And today, we're talking about voter ID laws. Now, to me, this doesn't make much sense as to why it's a controversy, but it is. Over 36 states have some form of voter ID laws, and some say these laws are specifically designed to keep the elderly, minorities, and the poor from voting. Some even compare it to Jim Crow laws, such as the poll tax of Jim Crow era South, early 1900s, late 1800s type thing. And they cite statistics like this. 25% of blacks don't have an ID, whereas only 8% of whites don't have an ID. They also point out that 11% of eligible voters in the U.S. do not have access to identification. And they say that it would be too expensive to get or travel to get an ID. They point out that in some rural areas, such as in Texas, it could be a 45-minute to an hour transit to the nearest DMV. Even if the ID is free, you're going to have to travel that distance. And other states also require that you have your birth certificate, and even if the ID is free, the birth certificate is not. Now, mostly the people who say this also says voter fraud really doesn't exist. But we're going to talk about that a little bit later. On the other side of things, they say it's kind of common sense because you need your ID to drive, you need your ID to buy alcohol or guns, you need your ID to buy R-rated movies or buy M-rated video games. There are a great many things you need your ID for. You need an ID to get a job. If you don't have an ID, you can't really perform in society the way that people with an ID can. So what is really the excuse for people not having an ID? They also say that fraud, voter fraud, is rare but very, very easy. In 2013, Department of Investigation's undercover agents tried to vote illegally in New York at 63 different polling places. 97% of those who attempted were allowed to. One woman who was 24 years old actually voted as an 87-year-old deceased woman. In my opinion, the reason it's undershadowed or overshadowed by other things is that voter fraud is not something that's investigated. They don't come knocking on your door and making sure, hey, you're who you say you are, right? You're who you say you are on this ballot. They don't really care that much, so therefore it looks like it doesn't exist because no one prosecutes it. But I feel like I have a little bit of personal insight into this matter. I've worked at the polling place in the 2016 election. I worked during I believe our primaries were in June of that year, and I worked there in November, the election that Donald Trump was elected at. Now, in June, we were required to ask for ID, and almost everyone was fine with that. We took military IDs, we took passports, we took the state-issued free DMV IDs, which are a great thing. Anybody who can get to the DMV can get one for free. Mostly driver's license, of course. And I felt very confident that no one I had checked in was lying about who they say they were unless they had a really good fake ID. Because they had a picture ID, I could see that it looked like them. I could see who they were, and I could see that they matched. See, the way that they match you in the voter registration system, at least in North Carolina, is that it has your name, your address, and your age, and your party affiliation. That's all it says. It doesn't have a picture of you so that when you come to vote, we know what you look like. So once you provide me that ID, I see it's got your name on it, and I ask for your correct address, and that's your picture, and you look to be about the age that it says in the registration form. I'm pretty confident you are who you say you are. However, come November, we had lost that ruling. We had lost those laws. And in November, all someone had to do was come in and say, my name is blank, I live at blank. So theoretically, anyone who knew my address and my full name could have voted as me, provided they could pass for someone my age, and a male, of course. That's kind of scary to me, and this has happened before. Not to me specifically. But I was not confident at all that all those people were who they say they were. Not saying that they were being fraudulent on purpose. I know there were even some cases where there were juniors and seniors, and they ended up voting as each other and things like that. But I wasn't very confident that we were doing things correctly. Voter ID laws, in my opinion, are very common sense. Something we absolutely need to have. And I'm perfectly fine with the North Carolina State DMV giving out free identification cards so that you can vote. I'm perfectly fine with that. There's no problem with that whatsoever. I don't care if I know it'll cost something, but I'd rather have people vote legally than than not be able to vote, or rather be able to vote but be able to vote fraudulently. We talk a lot about the sanctity of our elections with Russia and how they meddled in our 2016 elections, but we don't ever talk about how easy it is for people within the country to meddle in our elections. Anyway, that's all I had for today. I hope you enjoyed this brief video. Let me know what you think about voter ID laws down in the comments below. If you have any long questions, make sure you follow the link to my Facebook page, and from there email me. You can email me any long questions you have. We'll do a Q&A video. I'll try to email you back before I do that, though. Thanks for watching.